I'd like to call the September 8th Addison Township Zoning Board of Appeals to order. Would all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If you have roll call, please.
Tony Spina.
Here.
Ed Brakefield.
Here.
Jay Sandler.
Here.
Bill Marshall.
Here.
Vice Chair Smith.
Here.
Chair DeWitt.
Here. But late. Sorry.
No, you weren't.
Okay. Next item on the agenda would be approval of the agenda for tonight's meeting.
I'll make that motion to approve the agenda for tonight's meeting.
I'll second the motion. Roll call vote, please.
Ed Brakefield.
Yes.
Tony Spina.
Yes.
Jay Sandler.
Yes.
Vice Chair Smith.
Yes.
Chair DeWitt.
Yes. Next item on the agenda would be approval of our August 11, 2022 minutes.
I'll make a motion we approve the August 11, 2000 minutes.
I'll second.
22 minutes.
Any discussion or comments about the minutes? Having none, if we could have a roll call vote on the approval, please.
Tony Spina.
Yes.
Ed Brakefield.
Yes.
Jay Sandler.
Yes.
Vice Chair Smith.
Yes.
Chair DeWitt.
Yes. Okay. Next item on the agenda tonight would be the public hearing on case 22-8. The applicant is John and Nicole Rugarello. Tonight is your public hearing on this matter, and I'm going to read the request into the record. The applicant's parcel address is 1030 Bar Road. The zoning is Suburban Farms. Applicant parcel ID is 05.30.352.001. The applicant seeks an appeal of an administrative decision and variances from the Township of Addison Code of Ordinances, Appendix A, Code of Ordinances. The applicant seeks an appeal of an administrative decision P020-0091. The applicant is requesting an after-the-fact variance to retain an already constructed accessory structure 24 feet by 2 inches by 25 feet 2 inches in the side yard or in the front yard of the home. Article 4, Section 4.21- accessory structures and uses. Could you please confirm that's your request?
It is.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, this is an unusual matter. I'd like to give an introduction
Sure.
to you all. So
That's fine.
I think that you might shed some light. So some of you must have just won bingo. So this structure that we're talking about this evening is already in place. The township filed litigation because the structure was in place. It all occurred during the COVID, the real COVID shutdown, not post-COVID shutdown. During the initial shutdown, the structure was built. So the structure is already in place. The township has pending litigation in the Oakland County Circuit Court about this case. We filed a complaint basically saying, hey, the people built the structure without approvals and site plans and permits. And by the way, we think we built it. We think they built it in the wrong place. So the lawyer, Karen Birdie's here for the applicants. I've known Karen for a long time. She's here on their behalf. The judge in the Oakland County Circuit Court, as we've known, circuit court judges are often hesitant to quickly want to remove an already constructed structure. They're kind of hesitant. They want to make sure they've exhausted all remedies. So the court directed us as the attorneys to send this back to the local ZBA for a hearing to decide what would be known as an after-the-fact variance. In other words, you have to put on your hats this evening and say, okay, we're looking at this fresh. You know, if this came to us, would we grant a variance? What are the arguments? What are the conditions? and, you know, what is the situation. But I wanted to give you the backup. I included in your packet a copy of the complaint. It's only the complaint. The judge in this case has made no rulings. The judge in this case has not opined on anything at this juncture, except take it back to your ZBA and let's see if we can work this out or do something with the variance. So that's why we're here. I want you to understand this one's a little bit unique, but that's why we're here. So this is an accessory structure that I don't think anyone is going to dispute this evening, you know, was constructed, and it during the COVID time didn't get all the right permits and approvals from the township. However, there's another argument about the terrain of the property, and there's another argument about whether or not the structure is in the front yard or the side yard. If it is in the side yard, it doesn't need a variance. It can sustain itself. So without making any arguments, that'll be for the applicant, but I wanted you to understand the setting as to where we're at this evening. I appreciate the time.
Right. The board knows this, but the audience may not, and the applicant may not. This is our meeting for the public hearing where we take, you make your case to us, you describe what's going on, and we ask you some questions and things like that. But before we get to the actual public hearing, before you actually do that, we're going to ask if there's anybody in the audience who wants to comment on the application. So that being said, I need a motion to open the public hearing at 6:10.
I'll make a motion to open the public hearing. I'll second.
Okay, if we could have a roll call vote on that motion.
Tony Spina?
Yes.
Ed Brakefield?
Yes?
Jay Sandler?
Yes.
Vice Chair Smith?
Yes.
Chair DeWitt?
Yes. Okay, motion passes. Okay, so this is our opportunity for the public to make comment. Is there anybody in the public that wants to comment on the application for this variance?
Yeah. My name is Jason Kowarski. I'm the Brugerillo's neighbor. They've been excellent neighbors. I'm also a local licensed builder and a member of the community. I live right at 1110 Bar Road. I barely noticed the structure. I would assure you it would probably pass all after the fact inspections based on the way the structure was built. I do not see it as an eyesore, and he's always kept the yard very clean. He's always been willing to lend a helping hand, and I personally don't see any issue with the structure.
You support the variance request?
I support it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else in the audience that want to make comment?
Yeah.
Take your time.
We're from Laurel, Maine. We're at 1750 Drainer. We're just across the road from Brugerillo's, and we also don't have an issue with this shed. I would just like to point out to the board that our terrain is hilly, and it's swampy in places, and it's wooded in places. And even if you would say that, well, this was built on this side of the property that was not appropriate, we're kind of limited in where we can build on our property. I would argue that this particular shed is on the side, it's not in the front, it doesn't obstruct the house. It's a nice looking shed. Wouldn't mind having one in my yard. So I'm also in support of the variance if it's needed, but more in support of the fact that there's no variance needed here at all.
Yeah, I also noted that the structure was very well surrounded by Mr. and Mrs. Brugerillo's property. So very important to notice that it was not something sticking out, but something that was...
It's appropriate.
Yeah, it's very well integrated, and didn't feel anything that was like barrier to anybody or anything. You know, you cannot pass or, you know, create any difficulty for you to move, or everything was very well, I would say, integrated. It's a pleasure to look at sometimes, and I feel that way, and you know, that's what we feel. Great.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Anybody else in the audience want to make a comment? Okay, one last time, does anybody else want to make a comment on this? application? Nobody else wanting to make a comment? I need a motion to close the public hearing for
I'll make that motion to close the public hearing.
And I'll second that one. If we can have a roll call vote on it.
Tony Spina,
Yes.
Jay Sandler,
Yes.
Ed Brakefield.
Yes.
Vice Chair Smith.
Yes.
Chair DeWitt.
Yes. Okay, public hearing was closed at 6:14. Okay, now for the applicant. The
Yes.
applicant or his representative can make their case.
I brought some packets, if I could pass them out.
Tender one to the young lady over there for the record.
Thank you. I'll set it here. These are things I'll probably refer to as I make my presentation. Oh, I have one for you though.
Okay, so this is your...
Where's the house? This is forward. That's the house. This is another building here.
So again, for the record, my name is Karen Birdie. I work at Earl and Rose. I don't know if you need my address. It's 31851 Mound Road, Warren, Michigan. I represent John and Nicole Reggiarello, and they reside at 1030 Bar in Oxford. So basically, I think I need to start a little bit with some history. There is an existing that was built during COVID, 24 by basically 25-foot accessory building. And we contend it's built on the side of their house. Before I get into the variance in that, I'd like to note that this occurred, basically my client put down a deposit with the company who built the structure, a deposit in 2019. And the idea was he had seen the structure he was looking for, it fit what he was intending to use it for, and the price was right, so we put the deposit down. All of us, none of us knew COVID was going to hit. None of us knew that the harshest part of COVID, I believe, started pretty much in March of 2020, if my memory serves right. And at that point is when this garage, this structure company started saying, you know, we need to get this built, we need to put it up, we want the rest of our money, et cetera, et cetera. He adjourned it repeatedly because during that time period, he's trying to get hold of the building department. He knows he needs to go to the building department and address permits and plans and what he's contending on doing. Unfortunately, what eventually happened is as COVID dragged on and as his phone calls weren't being answered, I think in many ways, many communities thought that the shutdown was not going to be as long as it was. I think in many ways, people thought it was going to be an interruption, and I think it played out much longer anyway than I thought it would, and I think it played out much longer than maybe we anticipated for our business purposes. But his attempts to contact the building department were repeated. He left messages asking for a return phone call and did not get them. It turns out that towards late spring of 2020, he was told that they were going to confiscate his deposit if he did not authorize them to put the structure up. He put down a substantial amount of money and was very concerned about losing his deposit. The purpose for this accessory structure is my client keeps bees on his property. He keeps several hives, and he does that basically as a hobby, but also as for allergy purposes, having the local pollen, the collection of the honey, nutrition, etc. And he also has chickens on his property. And he keeps his property very neat and tidy. He wants everything put away, nothing out and loose. So he needed to be able to put his equipment in this structure. And also, he has 4 daughters. And the oldest is starting driver's training. There will be more vehicles. And as I said, he's got 4 daughters that are coming of age. So that was the need for the structure.
Basically, my client has a little over 2 acres, 2.1 acres. It sounds like a lot of property, but when you look at the configuration on this property, it's very different. This is basically the blow up the plan, and I gave one of these plans for everyone here, but I also gave you a smaller plan in your packet. The first item in your packet is basically my addressing in writing the hardships and what occurred, etc. But the second is a small version of this. And it's hard to read, but here's why I put that in your packet. If you look at the topographical part of that, you can see that basically this piece of property has the highest elevation here, here, and here. When you go by this property, when you drive down Drainer Road, you are going to see that this is at least 20 feet high. 20 feet high here. It is basically a drop-off right to Drainer. If you look on the property, this area back here is a steep, steep hill, and it's all wooded. This here is all wooded. This in the front, all wooded, and this along here, all wooded. This is open. This is the lowest point of the property. This strip right here, it's like a valley. Here's how steep this property is. From this garage to the house is 38 feet. And the elevation goes up 20 feet. That means for every foot you go from this garage to the house, you go up 2 feet. 2 feet up for every foot you go. And I am very pleased to hear that you're going to be driving by the property and looking at that, because you will see that basically this is his horseshoe driveway. Drainer through over here to Bar. This driveway here, I cannot get my car up that driveway unless it's summertime. I attempted to get my vehicle up there when there were leaves on it, and the car slid and would not go up. If it's rained on the asphalt, you can't get up that driveway. If it snowed, you can't get up that driveway. He doesn't even plow that driveway in the winter, usually. Did I drop something? Yeah, okay. Because it's quite frankly treacherous. So if you look at the idea of what he's trying to solve, which is vehicles for his children and keeping his property neat, you can't carry anything up that hill that's substantial. You can't drive into your property, park your vehicle, and walk up. This is their front door, this is their side door, and this is a walkout basement. That helps to verify the dimensions that I'm telling you of 20 feet variance from the front to the back of the house. It is a full walkout basement. But that's not an entry door. That's the type of like sliding doors or what have you. That's not an entry door to the home. The entry door is on the side and on the front. In your packet, at the next page, I gave you out of the Addison Township Code of Ordinances, basically what shows as the rear yard and the front yard. And in your packet, it shows rear yard, side yard, and front yard. Nowhere in this packet does it show anything other than in front of the house as the front yard. It shows the side yard. See the shaded in area? This shows the entire side to the front as the side yard. In the diagram here, this is the house, this is an existing garage, and this is the subject accessory building that we're discussing. We We contend that it is absolutely within the side yard. And it meets the side yard setbacks because we are 20 feet 4 inches from the property line. So based on the Code of Ordinances and looking at it and the diagram, it appears clear as day that this would be the side yard. If in fact the ordinance wanted to claim that all of this is the front yard and not just this diagram is incorrect. And this is what misled the Ruggiero. This is not a case of improper intent. This isn't a case of somebody thinking, I can do whatever I want, whenever I want, however I want. I believe that a combination of things happened, and one of them was COVID and not being able to get the guidance from the building department, the pressure from the company saying they're going to keep his deposit if he doesn't schedule, and the diagram in the zoning ordinances that very clearly shows this as the side yard. So I submit to you that this accessory building is in the side yard, and I submit to you that with a setback of over 20 feet from the side property line, that it meets the requirements of the Addison Township zoning ordinances, and I would ask you to make that ruling when the time's appropriate. I know not this evening, but when the time's appropriate, I would ask that that be the ruling. If on the other hand, the board feels differently, say you feel that this is in the front yard setback, irregardless of the diagram, I would like to express to you that we are asking for a dimensional variance, and when you ask for a dimensional variance, I have to show a practical difficulty. In doing that, there are several things that I need to show to the board, and that I'd like to do that right now. One is, it asks you if the variance is granted, is it unreasonably burdensome and a detriment to the neighbors? Well, I would indicate to you that it is not. We have 2 neighbors here tonight, and also in your packet, I gave you the affidavits of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 neighbors, all of whom feel that this structure is not burdensome to them, not a detriment to their neighborhood, and not a problem. So I submit to you that we have, number 1, affidavits from neighbors saying that they're comfortable with this accessory structure. Number 2, I believe that you can hardly see the structure itself. In your packet, I gave several photographs. The first photograph, this is the property that we're talking about, a house, and this is the structure over here, right here. I have to point it out to you because you can't see it because of the trees. This is the structure, and I don't think you can really see it. Then I wanted to give you a photograph even closer up in the front of the house, and I don't think you can really see it easily at all. And that's why I enclosed those photographs for you. So I think that it's not a detriment or an unreasonable burden when it's very difficult to even see the accessory structure. In addition to that, in the neighborhood, a street away, and this is in your packet, at 1420 Larkspur, Oxford, in this case, they're putting a garage on the side, but definitely in front of their structure. So I wanted to show that this is not a situation that does not occur. This clearly does occur, and it occurs right in their neighborhood. The second thing that I need to show is that the property is unique. This is a corner lot in a bigger subdivision. The Harmony something is this subdivision. And you'll see here that It goes all in this area here. And that's on your plan that I submitted to you. This, however, is the only lot in this subdivision that has total hills around it and a valley. And I will tell you, that valley in the spring, he's got lakefront property. It is wet, and I mean wet down here. Because obviously, everything accumulates down at the lowest point after the snow melt, etc. And this area, quite frankly, you can't walk through without getting up to your shins with mud. So, and quite often there's a little lake there. So, this property's unique because the other lots in Harmony subdivision are not facing the same situation. So you say, why would we place the accessory structure here? And I would submit to you the following. Starting here, right here at the back of the house, is the drop-off. There is nothing that can be built like right here. It is absolutely, as I stated, 2 feet high for every foot you go out. All of this here is woods, but all of this is the high elevation. When thinking about how you would function, you drive your car home, you'd park it in the accessory structure, where would you go into your home? Well, you'd probably go in your side door, right there. And the beauty of this is, you would walk across a level driveway. Anywhere else on this property, I submit to you, anywhere else on this property that you put this, you could not walk easily, let alone carry something from your car. You could not put this anywhere else. So that is how this accessory structure ended up in this location. And as I stated, when you go out and take a look at it, I believe that you're going to see exactly what I'm referring to. I would title this as extreme elevation deviations that are unique to this lot. And that's why we're here right now. Again, please pay attention to when you drive down Drainer, how it's basically 20 feet high here. And please pay attention to how this drops off and how the property is all a hill down to a valley when you check out the property. So that's the property being unique. The third thing is it self-imposed? And I would stress to you, my clients didn't grade the property this way. It obviously came this way. So it's not a self-imposed hardship. The fourth criteria is you can't just ask for an economic variance. In other words, I'm asking for a variance because I don't want to spend this money to do this improvement that I'm required to do. Obviously, that does not apply to this case. That would be something like someone saying, I don't want to put up a wall between a business and residential because it costs this much money per square foot. That's not our case here. This is a situation where we're not asking for economic relief. He actually put up an accessory building. So we're not asking to get relief economically. And the last thing, is the variance necessary for the enjoyment and for him to obtain his substantial property rights? And I would indicate to you, yes, it is a necessary variance. The reason that it's necessary is, number one, even in your zoning ordinances, and I'm sorry I don't have the number here right now, you have a zoning ordinance that says you're to keep your property neat and tidy and not to have things strewn about all over. And this is a neat and tidy property. He does keep his things under shelter and in good order. Even the neighbors see his property as being kept nicely. He also has the equipment for bees and chickens. And in Michigan, you have a right to farm under the Right to Farm Act. And I believe that that should play also into the decision of whether or not he should be allowed to have this variance. And otherwise, he is very limited as to, with the number of people that live in such a large square footage home, having the proper areas for him to park vehicles. So I would say that given those criteria, we have met all the criteria to obtain a practical difficulty standard for dimensional variance. I think that we've demonstrated that through the items that I've provided to you, to the explanation that I have written to you and provided in the package. And I would ask that if you should find that this accessory building is not in the side yard, that you grant him a variance for this structure in the location that he has it. Now, one loose end I want to tie up. In reading the packet that was sent to me, thank you for whoever sent that to me, in the packet that was sent to me, there was some question on whether or not this property was in a easement. It is not within the easement. We have clarified that. There's a AT&T or a Meritech easement right here. We have the dimensions that are on the plan. And by the way, if it was within the easement, and whoever owns that easement, meaning a Meritech or AT&T, if they should come to him and say you're in the easement, he would have to deal with them. He would either have to negotiate a resolution or he would have to comply with the easement. So he doesn't, by getting a variance through this board, it relieves him of no obligation to AT&T and Meritech. He still has that obligation to them. I am available for questions. Like I said, I don't normally have to go after the fact, but we really were in a situation with COVID where we could not get communication from the building department, and I think it put my client in a precarious position, and none of us really knew when this was going to end, when COVID was going to end. I mean, it would have been easy if we knew the township was going to be open at XYZ date, and none of us knew. It just seemed to be a rolling, continuing type of situation. So thank you for your time, and I'm available for any questions.
I've got one real quick question. And you say you look forward to us coming and seeing the property. However, you put the 2 German Shepherds out with a sign that says, "We will eat you if you show up on this property." Thank you very much for the invitation. I don't know if I want to go out there.
So, what I would say
I'd like for you
to
to put the 2 German Shepherds out there licking their lips. Show up.
I do not disagree with you on that. We can make a situation where I'm assuming, and this could be really wrong, that if most of you are coming in the evening, we could put the dogs in for the evenings, or if you could give us some indication of when you'd like to swing by, we can make sure the dogs are in so that you can actually pull through the driveway. We would be glad to do that.
That'd probably be helpful.
That would be very helpful.
Yes, because I really don't want you to be eaten by the dogs.
to be eaten.
You only eat males over 60 break those.
You probably should leave the phone number so contact, so we'd never, I don't think anyone here would show up unannounced.
Okay.
We would call you in advance saying.
So, would it be all right if I gave you the Roggerello's phone number? And then you can coordinate directly?
Yeah, if they're willing to do that, that would be helpful.
Yeah, we will do that before we leave.
Good.
Mr. Smith, do you have any questions?
Just a technicality, if it ever comes up, does the Right to Farm Act apply to properties less than 10 acres?
Maybe I should check that, right?
I can provide that. I have some pretty good research on Right to Farm Act. Lawrence, I don't know about the 10-acre issue, but I can check for you.
But you know what's interesting though, I do want to point out, and I'm just going to talk very briefly on this. We do have a crisis with the bees as pollinators and them dying from the pesticides. I will say this, that as many people keep local bees in different places, the better off the whole community is. I just want to say that. I think that in some ways, yes, it's his hobby and he enjoys it, but I think it's also a good thing for the community.
Mr. Spina, do you have any questions?
Only one thing that I've seen that you haven't discussed, and that is just over 2 years ago, there was apparently a stop work order issued to the applicants, and as far as I can tell, they did nothing in the last 2 years.
That isn't exactly what happened, but here's what occurred. The building went up with the company that constructed it literally in a day and 2 hours the next morning. After that construction is when an official, and I'm not sure who right now off the top of my head, but an official came by and issued a stop work order. Unfortunately, the building, it was already done. I will tell you this, no work has been done since that stop work order was issued. There is no utilities at all to this structure, although I will tell you this, I don't think they're going to add any utilities. It is, if you will, just the outer shell. And so there was no violation of that stop work order. However, that stop work order did come after the building was put up. And interesting enough, here's the best part. So when they spoke to the gentleman who came out, he put the stop work order up and they said, okay, how can we address this? And he said, well, City Hall is still closed. The Township Hall is still closed. And he says, well, why, when I was calling and calling and calling, couldn't I get an answer? And he says, well, it's been a difficult time for everybody, and we acknowledge that too. We understand that. He says, what do I do now? And he said, submit for a permit. So,
He said submit for a zoning compliance.
yes,
Right.
okay.
Yeah, perfect.
Yes.
Perfect.
Okay, and so, well, my client, within 10 days of getting that stop work order, did submit it. But unfortunately, I'm sorry, and I don't want to say bad things about anybody, it sat on the gentleman's desk. He did not address his submission. And my client thought that then it was over, and then he got the lawsuit. So I don't think that there's anything to go against the fact that we were able to show a submission. The gentleman who took it in had not acknowledged that he submitted it within 10 days, and literally no action was taken, none, by the township. And
About
maybe
what
because of
date?
COVID, I don't know.
About what date was that burned up garage shed?
August 16th of 2020, the compliance, I'm sorry, what you call it here, I call
A
it,
zoning compliance permit.
the zoning compliance permit was turned in, I believe, in very early September. My client was able to provide some parts of copies of that and was able to describe the gentleman he turned it into. That gentleman acknowledged that it was turned in. And then throughout our discovery, which is the exchange of information, no action was taken by the township. And like I say, I don't want to necessarily disparage the township, but on the same token, they were in the middle of COVID too. So I think on both sides, in all honesty, because of COVID, we have transgressions. I believe that the township made mistakes, I think due to COVID. I think my client made mistakes due to COVID. I think my client had some pressures due to COVID, and that's how we end up here.
Okay, that's it for me.
All right. Mr. Hatfield, any questions?
I would like to thank you. It's a very good presentation. I think you did a great job of presenting everything. This is unique. The COVID monster is out there to bite us. And this is something that I've got to think about. Yes, I will definitely call first before I come out.
Yes, yes.
I like your sign. They will attack. I don't like that, so I will call first. I like your sign though. But yeah, I think your presentation was very well done.
Thank you.
I have no question, but
I have a couple questions.
Okay.
One question, how much was the deposit that was made that was in risk of being forfeited?
Okay. I think it was over $2,000.
Over 2,000.
It was $3,000.
Just trying to get an idea of the magnitude.
I got you.
The other garage that's down the hill,
Yes.
what's the use of that garage? Is that
The use of that garage, quite frankly, I don't know if you know this property was a foreclosure property. I think I helped you purchase it in 2010. It was a foreclosure. He has worked to redo that property. It's beautiful. He's done some nice things inside, floors, etc. So he has a lot of tools. That garage down there is all tools, machines for wood,
woodworking?
yeah, no, not like decorative things, like to put in floors, to lathe, planer, joiner.
Karen, it's very clear you're out of your element right
I
now.
am. His machines
But you
go
can keep
boom,
talking.
and you put the
You
wood and...
Just do the noise thing, that's helping
It's
a lot.
not used to house cars.
No, because seriously, I can't wait till you guys see it. If you park down there, I couldn't walk up that hill without having a heart attack. And if you want to carry anything, and the children ride down that toboggans, the sleds,
It's a good place to skateboard.
yeah, oh yeah.
Another question, looking at the plans of the house, it's not totally clear, but I'm assuming that across from this structure we're talking about, this new structure, that's a garage.
It is, right here.
It's a two-car garage?
No, it's a 3.
Three-car garage, okay.
One of them is used for the dogs, to have an indoor, out of the rain, out of the cold.
They're not eating people?
When they're not eating people, it's for them to rest, but for that. And then the other 2 garages are used for cars for both owners right now. And you've got 4 kids with bikes, basketballs, scooters.
Okay. And one additional question, and we'll see this when we come out to visit, but I'm
Yeah.
assuming this new garage is on a concrete slab?
It is, with the required rat wall.
Okay.
Yes, and by the way, I've explained to my client that should there be found that it's in the side yard and no variance required, in that case, he still has to have the building department out, he has to comply with all inspections, they're gonna check all of these things, I've
Well,
explained.
we would go through a complete after-the-fact permit process.
Yes,
The building is not being used presently, is it?
it has some things in it, but they don't go in and out of it all the time. There's things in it right now, yes.
I think that's all my questions, thank you.
Mr. Marshall, any questions?
I'm kind of curious about this builder. Was he a licensed contractor?
The people
Builder.
who put up according to what they said, yes.
Now, did he get the building permits for this structure?
No, the discussion was clearly that the owner had to go get the building permits. And when he was calling, my client was calling the township, he could not get an answer back.
But, well, then I'm under the assumption that this building was put up without building permits.
That's correct.
That is what happened.
And that's the nature of the lawsuit.
Yeah, okay.
Yes. Yes.
And the reason we're here, as I said earlier, the judges, by the way, looked at Karen and I's positions on this and heard a lot of this, so the judge thought the wisdom of our ZBA would be an avenue here. Obviously, the judge is looking to solve the litigation, right? As most judges do. So that's why we're here.
No. Any other questions from the board?
So we have permission to call your client, not
Yes.
me, the board members, they would then have access.
Yes.
And,
What I'll do is
Well, just so you know, we would, because the way Michigan is, we would come out individually.
they wouldn't violate the
Open
Open
Meetings Act, I get it.
Okay, your client may or may not be aware of that.
I think Karen sat on a ZBA in Warren for
Oh, okay.
20 years.
So you have lots of company all the time.
Yes. Yeah.
And then Karen, if you have any, or if you guys have any other questions, I'll direct them back. You just contact me and I'll direct them back and get you answers. Lawrence, I'll get you a memo or some information on the right format.
That's fine, thank you.
Okay, so unless the board has any other questions?
I think phone number is already might already be in the application.
Why don't you read it out loud and see if it's correct? Well, let's not do that. Why don't you have the client look at this phone number and see if it's correct? Because they all have the same tag.
Oh, that's my number.
Oh,
When I looked at it, I'm like, I'm positive.
Maybe Karen, you could just.
You know what I'll do? On a piece of paper, I'll write out the two numbers and their names,
Yeah.
and then I will just,
Just give it to the,
I'll give it to the secretary, and she can share it with everybody.
great,
Does that sound good?
yes.
Okay. Thank you very much for your time tonight. Thank
Thanks,
you.
Karen.
Again, as you know, this is our public hearing, we'll make a decision next month.
Okay. Do we know the date of the meeting?
That'll be what Thursday of next month? The
Second Thursday.
second
October
Thursday,
13th?
Second Thursday.
October 13th.
Okay. thank you.
October 13th.
Okay.
Thanks to the neighbors for showing up.
And if you wish to leave now, you're free to do so.
Okay. Well said.
Okay, my work here is done.
Can we take a break or just move to the next one? Okay. Mr. Davis, you're going to leave?
Well, unless you want me to stay for this next one.
I vote he leaves. And goes to his party.
I have a daughter who flew in from Key West because today's her birthday and surprised me. She wants to have dinner with me.
Get going.
Yes,
Did
yes.
you give Bob a chance to hold your baby? Just
I have to hold the baby and then I can leave.
Okay.
And I need running for office.
All right, while we're doing this, I'm going to move to the next agenda item, which would be 22-7. The applicant is Bailey Farrell. The applicant's parcel address is 420 Mac Road, parcel ID 05.26.126.003, zoning suburban farms. This is our deliberation hearing. And the applicant is seeking a variance from the Township of Addison Code of Ordinances, Appendix A, Code of Ordinances, Article 7A, Section 7A, 05.4, minimum yard setback, rear 50 feet. The applicant is requesting the following variance, a variance of 21.85 feet from Article 7A, Section 7A, .05.4, and Article 24, same rear 50 feet. Okay, so this being our deliberation meeting, I'm just going to ask the applicant if he has any more information he wants to share with the board.
We did get a letter signed from our neighbor that would, they're right next, it's on that property line. I don't know if you guys want to read it, we did make copies for everybody. All it says is that,
I think you could just submit it to the secretary, and then, I think you've already sent it to the board, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't know if we sent the letter or not.
It seems like it's short. Why don't you just read it?
Yeah. We are writing on behalf of Bailey and Mike Farrell building their barn. We have no objections or concerns with them building their accessory building in the southeast corner of the property. Thank you, Brian and Jill, 432 Mac Road. And then I moved the structure forward, like laid it out with the front line of the house, and then that changes the variance to 12 feet. Be a 12-foot variance instead of the 21.85.
All right, does the board have any questions of the applicant?
I think we asked him to see if he could move it forward, and he did.
He did.
Great. Okay. That being said, I guess we can, if there's no other comments or questions, I guess we can make a motion to approve or deny the request.
I'll make that motion.
And can you support it with facts and information?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the variance as requested for 12 feet as opposed to the 21.85 feet that was originally requested to build the structure as requested.
I'll second that motion.
Okay. Any comments or any other discussion about the motion? There being none, if we could have a roll call vote on the motion, a yes vote is to approve the variance and no vote is to deny the variance.
Tony Spian,
Yes.
Ed Brickfield,
Yes?
Jay Sandler,
Yes.
Vice Chair Smith,
Yes.
Chair DeWitt.
Yes. Motion passes. Your variance for 12 feet has been granted.
It would have been denied. That easy. Yeah, let Bob Davis hold that
So
thing. It was all in the baby's hands.
yeah.
Good job.
Okay.
Thank you.
The next agenda item is public forum where anybody in the audience can make comments about the ZBA issues in general. Mr. Smith, you're the only one in the audience. Do you have any comments?
I have none, thank you.
Okay. Close the public forum then, and we'll move to the next agenda item, other business. Correspondence received by the ZBA, any correspondence? There being none, item B would be zoning board reports. Anybody on the board have reports to make? Nope. There being none. Next item is C, report of planning commission liaison.
Planning Commission's been dormant.
So that takes care of that. Next, we would need to have a motion to adjourn this
I'll
hearing.
make that motion before Jay does.
I will second.
Okay.
Okay. All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Meeting's adjourned.